things become more practical when what happens is that you have a pointer. When you have a pointer, PTR, right? Pointer. And what it remembers of an object which is huge. Like this could be a block of memory that stores like a 5-minute movie, right? That could easily be what, I don't know, 100 megabyte in size, right? So this entire thing is like 100 megabyte in memory. Do you think passing this object, which is this big, somehow you have this huge variable in memory that stores 100 megabyte of binary data. Do you think passing that object by copying it to the stack is a good idea? Of course not. It's going to take a long time. And if you're using some algorithms that say try to do some computations with this blob of data, then you want to use multiple functions, you're in huge trouble because all your program will be doing is making copies of this humongous object. So then why not just pass the pointer to this object to another part of the program? Problem solved. You're passing essentially a little pointer. The size of an address is basically the size of an integer, which is, quite significant compared to 100 megabytes of your, movie in computer memory. So this is where pointers also become extremely important when you have to deal with objects of significant size. Then pretty much using pointers is your only choice because you really never want to copy these objects. Another situation when you want to use pointers is that you can have some unique resources in your program. For example, let's say that I have, I'm just trying to think about something practical, like for example, maybe you have maybe you have a web page, right? And that web page contains some text, right? And it contains some pictures like that, and it contains more text, and it contains more pictures down there, okay? So for instance, I want to build a browser, a web browser, that basically is limited to only one network connection. So instead of downloading text separately and each image, instead of downloading it separately, what it's doing, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's some kind of secure protocol or whatever the limitation is. Or maybe I want that browser to have it built into the microwave, and my resources are extremely limited, right? So maybe I create a network connection, right? I create some kind of network connection which looks like this, which allows me to pass data from the server, right? So this is the server side, and this is the client side. So maybe I have an object which is my network connection, right? So let me just try to draw it like a brick, right? So I have an object which represents a network connection. And so instead of having multiple network connections to retrieve multiple pieces of this web page, I want to use just one. Another example, in that case, I will probably just open that network connection and pass it around to every single part of my program. Another situation, what if I have another possibility here, which would be, trying to select everything. Okay, another possibility would be that I have the database, okay? And it's the database that I'm using, right? So that looks like a disk picture. And this is my database connection. Now, I may have a license to create only one database connection, okay? a license that creates only one database connection. I cannot duplicate this object. It's absolutely unique. I have to create it once and use it for the duration of my program anytime I have to access the database. Well, guess what? What's happened? What's going to happen then? I'm going to write many different functions, and anytime that function needs access to the database, somehow I will provide a pointer, right? So I will have a pointer to this object in memory, and every time I need to call a function that has to deal with the database, I will be passing that pointer to that function, right? Because I have those constraints. I cannot duplicate this object, since it's not going to let me duplicate it, because it's going to say, no, you cannot do this. You have to buy, additional licenses to have convenience of duplicating database connections. Okay, so there's your other type of limitation, where pointers essentially is instant solution to, like, how do you access the same thing from different places in your program.